Twitch chat, it is time to go over the new patch preview, this time with numbers. Is Riot cooking? Let's see. Junglers, Rengar, Diana, Udyr receiving simple buffs. Udyr and Diana in particular, pretty reliant on Lianji, and now we're giving them compensation since Lianji is in a better state. AK nerf because the item was very overpowered. AP Twitch, trying to focus changes in the direction of farming AP Twitch compared to support AP Twitch, which we're less happy with. Granted, the buffs here take an extremely weak champion to a still weak champion just a little less weak. AP item Fallout. Some other champions like Twisted, Kassadin and Ryze have received indirect nerfs, Swifties, Archangels and Roa. While Spellbook was being buffed, it's still pretty unpopular and needs some time to pick up the steam. Now that items are in a stable spot, we want to adjust the champions. Okay, so they think items are in a stable spot. That's interesting. I disagree. Once again, Ryze and Focus is obviously not right, which they're changing, and I also think Roa is way too weak. As for the items themselves, we are monitoring some of the stronger and weaker items. We want to position Roa as a flexible item. For some set of more controlling mages that helps you survive lane with double ruby but not output as much for champions that opt into it. And therefore it's weaker as an actual item. So I still think this is completely wrong. Completely wrong. It should be the opposite. Catalyst should not be a game warping component in lane that makes you just unkillable, and Roa should actually give you something than right now, which is nothing. I still think this is completely wrong. We're keeping an eye on Storm Surge, Lichbane and Luden's paths as items that are a bit on the stronger side. They're not far enough over the immediately need nerfs though. I think Storm Surge is for sure too strong and will need a nerf. I think Lichbane, arguably maybe, but Luden's is not. Samira has been appropriately powerful for her mastery curve, but not super satisfying or with a clear identity. Two of the things her kit gives her over the roster is her snowballiness and her teamfighting ability. This changes is positioned to make lifesteal more effective on her, which may make the difference between her surviving and getting that pentakill off or not. I may make certain builds like BT first, similar to Draven, more viable. Okay, that's cool. Kassadin has been stuck between being a bit of an anti-mage and a bit of a giga scaler. Well, they say a bit of an anti-mage. I think the narrative that Kassadin is an anti-mage has died down a long time ago, like many years ago. The reality is that his passive is a fucking joke and his Q is like a little bit of an anti-mage, sorry. Giga Scaler, that's definitely completely false narrative. He's a mid-game power spike champion. His level 11 is by far his strongest point. His level 16 is pretty dog shit if you compare it to Kayle, Asol, Vladimir, Timo, I don't know, any scaling champion in the game. Like Kassadin is just nowhere near that list. We're giving Kassadin a tad more early game power so that he can contribute more in early game and mid game while taking a little. This will hopefully make him more viable in more situations, especially in higher levels of play. No it won't. Okay, let's go over it. So Ashe getting a quality of life buff. Q will now stack up when attacking structures. Honestly, I think great quality of life buff. For Ashe players, I think like a lot of instances where you're attacking the tower and your Q just loses the buff, so you have to use the Q on the tower for that reason. I think it's a very small, this will probably not move her win rate, but nice. Diana, passive monster mod 2.25 to 2.6x. So let me actually open really fast Diana Wiki. I believe this number used to be 3x. So let me just take a look right here. Yeah, it used to be 300%. So it is not going to be as big of a number as she used to have, but this is still very nice. I think this will make Diana jungle be viable again. And I think right now with a protobell built on Diana, I honestly think that she might rise up. Rengar, our cooldown. 10 seconds lowered every rank. Honestly, not too bad. Very skeptical of buffing Rengar, but this buff seemed to be on the very light side. I sure 10 seconds probably mainly matters on rank 1, I think, but this will not make playing against Rengar super more oppressive. I think this is a very small buff. Ryze. Q increased damage against flux targets. So the flux is when he is, based on our rank, goes from 10 to 100% to 25 to 50, 75 and 100%. W damage will get 10 lowered. So this is definitely a buff to the Ryze and a pretty big one in my opinion. Very big buff to early game of Ryze. Ryze in late game is only strong when team comps do not outrange him, honestly. So in late game, even though this champion does scale up with damage, the problem with Ryze is that people just outrange him and he's very weak to CC. So I don't think that this champion is like a Thanos late game or anything like that. And this basically doesn't really change his late game. This just makes his early game a lot better. This is definitely going to matter a lot because it will change the wave clear breakpoints as well as in early game. I think by a lot, and also at level 6. This is basically a big buff from level 1 to 10. When you're level 11, you only get 5% more damage. At that point, you won't really feel the buff anymore. It's basically from level 1 to 10, a very big Q buff. Yeah, it's gonna change a lot of things on Ryze. I think this is at least 1% win rate, if not more. Like this is pretty big for the champ. Sivir, W total AD ratio, 10% up in early game. Nice, I guess. I don't know. Fucking placebo. I mean, placebo. It's like makes Sivir, I guess, a bit better early game. Honestly, like if you ask me, her primary strength is already early game. Like if you lane against Sivir, her Q does so much damage to you. Like she can really lane bully some lanes, honestly. And with this W buff, it makes her winning matchups. Like she can stick her push in. Like you pick like Sivir Karma and you want to like perma push a lane on bot lane, right? Like with this buff, this makes you basically like just winning matchups harder. And if you don't have a super winning matchup, then it just doesn't do a lot. So Twisted Fate, 10 damage on Q. I think massive buff. Fucking massive buff to the champion. Because, so first of all, I think it's the wrong way to buff the champion. They should actually increase his AP ratio, I think, on Q, rather than giving him by 5%, rather than giving him 10 base damage. Because, guess what? Level 9 Twisted Fate will now be able to one-shot range minions, most likely with this buff, regardless of what build he goes. So I just think this buff is kind of massive on TF. I just think this champion is sleeper. Once people learn to go spellbook and build him, I don't know, Menace. It's upcoming Menace. Twitch, E AP ratio per stack, 5% up. Very big buff to AP Twitch, because again, you stack up this 5 or 6 times. I kind of forgot what it is. Yeah, big buff to AP Twitch, not much to say, more damage. I also don't really understand what they're saying here. They're saying that it buffs farming AP Twitch more compared to support AP Twitch. Sure, maybe a little bit, but we can't really argue that this is arguably maybe even a bigger support Twitch buff just because of the playstyle. I kind of think that it might actually just be a bigger support buff, even though it's an AP ratio buff. So I don't actually agree with what they're saying here. Udyr, R bonus damage on attack up by 10. Which is max rank R maybe? R total damage 80 to 360 to 80 to 400. Honestly, it's a very small buff. I think Udyr lost way more with Lianji nerf than with this. So then we go to champ nerfs. So Cho'Gath is losing 0.5 armor growth per level, which is around 1% win rate. Gonna be down. This is the same type of nerf they did to Xin Zhao last patch, right? Yeah, it will matter, right? It's a stat check champion, and when you nerf stats from a champion that has a terribly outdated kit and primarily functions as a stat checker, this is going to matter. Elise, passive on-hit AP ratio goes down by a little bit, so Elise is losing some auto-attack damage throughout the game. This is both jungle and support nerf to Elise, arguably probably bigger on jungle. Lucian, E cooldown goes to 16 seconds, so this ability used to be on 18 seconds. Now it's going to 16 seconds. So, it is still better than it used to be, but what this is going to do is this is going to make people realize that E max second is now going to probably be correct again. So yeah, Lucian will no longer max W second. Smolder, HP regen goes down for laning phase and armor goes down by 2. So for mid lane Smolder, I would say this only matters in a very bad matchup, the HP regen, and the armor only matters if you lane against like a Zed or something. Or Tristana. For bot lane Smolder, probably a slightly bigger nerfs here, because armor matters more in bot lane than it does on mid lane, but still. This is probably like 0.5% win rate down on Smolder, and he's still gonna be fine. Way stronger pre-buff. Yeah, he's still stronger than before he got the buffs. Aatrox. So here's the Aatrox change. So passive damage is losing by 4%, which is I think at level 18 if I'm not mistaken. The Q sweet spot damage mod is going up by 0.1, and the damage type on W changes to physical. So it's going to for sure make Lethality Aatrox better here. I'm not totally sure what's going to happen to Bruiser Aatrox, if it's going to be a nerf or a buff. I just have a feeling that if you're a really good Aatrox player and you hit Q a lot of times, that this will end up being a net positive for the champion. But we'll see. Annie. So I was actually curious, are they going to nerf Annie? Are they going to buff Annie? What is Riot cooking here? So Annie is getting more armor in early game, less armor at around level 7 onwards, if I'm not mistaken. And then the W damage is going down by 20 and also is by 0.5% AP ratio. I actually think this is going to kill Annie unironically. Like, not for solo queue, but for competitive. Like, I just don't see a reason why anyone would pick Annie in competitive anymore after this nerf. And the reason for this is because this W damage loss actually matters so much for wave clear breakpoint. Because at level 9, if you have 5 points W, you one-shot the wave. I believe this might not be possible anymore. And if I'm not mistaken, then I think Annie is getting a pretty big nerf here. Garen. So I already went over the Garen changes. Not really gonna talk about them a lot. I just think they're good. Whether the champ is too OP or too weak, it doesn't matter because they will just rebalance it a patch after this, and Garen will be an infinitely more healthier spot than he's ever been. Kassadin. Okay, this is the only change that I'm going to completely flame Riot on. I'm sorry. If you, just a moment of silence, like, if you main Kassadin, please just listen to me very carefully. Stop playing the champion, okay? This is the best thing you can do. You need to stop playing the champion. You need to make sure the pick rate becomes 0, so Riot actually puts him on a rework list, because at this point you need to give up hope, okay? This champion has no hope. Riot has abandoned this champion because it's unbalanceable, which is kind of fair, right? He needs a rework badly. And this is like, this was the last time that I had any hope for this champion to get any love. I'm sorry, but Riot decided to nerf the champion over buffing it. I have, like, sorry Riot Balance team, but you guys are seriously fucking this up if you guys think this is acceptable. 2 fucking armor on this champion. Sure, nice. Probably shouldn't be 19 in the first place. Then you somehow make E damage go up by 10. It has terrible base damage. You're not giving it AP ratio back that it used to have. It used to have like 90% AP ratio. Now it has like 60 or something. Like, or not 70. I don't remember. But I know they nerfed the AP ratio and the ability really hard. And then you nerf the hard AP ratio per stack. Like, what are we doing, man? This is just a nerf to the champ. Like, unironically. Like, I just don't believe this will ever be a buff to the champion. Even if he gains win rate, I just don't. Like, as a professional player myself, this makes me want to pick Kassadin less, man. This is just unbelievably weak. This is placebo, if anything. Whatever. Samira, Q lifesteal effectiveness goes up by 14%. Our lifesteal effectiveness is up by 30, very big. And then W bonus ratio goes down by 0.1. That doesn't matter. You don't use W for damage. I just think, yeah, really nice Samira buffs. I actually think these are good Samira buffs. Makes anti-heal more valuable, so you have to like kind of think more about itemization and igniting her and stuff like that. And I just think like it makes BT, Russian Samira probably, maybe even her best build now. So good job, Riot. I think these are good buffs. Yeah. Let me pick a champ. Horizon Focus. So yesterday I said decrease by 200. That's what I said. They have to decrease the price by 200. They're doing 100 gold cheaper and 5 more AP. 5 more AP is what? Around 100 gold as well, basically. So they are in a way giving it 200 more gold value. I just think decreasing the price would be more valuable than adding 5 AP, because power spiking on items earlier is just more valuable in League of Legends. But I think still a good buff. I can't complain. I think they almost nailed the buff here. Is it going to be a good item is the question. I think maybe, but probably still leaning towards no. I just know that the item is so weak right now that it probably needs more buffs than this. But it's gonna be pretty close to a good item. I think it might still be slightly underpowered. Please just abandon Kassadin, Riot. Please just don't put a change list in. If you're gonna buff him like that or adjust him like that, just don't do anything. Just let the champ die at this point. I don't know what you want me to say. This is just ridiculous.